last video, we went over how to create the perfect rounded box. And in this video, we're going to go over how to create individually rounding corners. Create a point control, name it box size, and move that above the roundness control. Open up the shape layer, rectangle 1, rectangle path 1, and pick whip the size property to the box size. Now the point control called box size will control the full size of our box, and the roundness control still controls the roundness. Rename rectangle 1 to corner 1. Duplicate rectangle path 1, and call this one corner mask. Turn off the size expression on this one. We need the corner mask to be up here in the top left corner, and we don't want any rounding on it. Add a merge paths below corner mask. If we change this to intersect, then it will only show the shape where rectangle path 1 and corner mask intersect. Even though the rectangle path 1 is still this outer shape, intersect is working like a mat. If I move around the corner mask, then you can see that only where those two shapes intersect does the new combined shape show. Using the corner mask's size and position properties, I'll manually resize and reposition the corner mask shape to move it into the top left quadrant of the original rectangle. These two shapes are now intersecting, and we're effectively showing 1/4 of the rectangle. This is the trick to individually rounded corners on a shape layer. We're splitting the full shape into 4 quadrants, a top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right. The corner mask will be driven by the full box size. We need to divide that by 2 and reposition it to the top left corner. I'll turn off the rounding for now. In this example, the full box size is 800 by 400. The corner mask size is half of that, so 400 by 200. These position values are offsetting the corner mask. If I zero out these position values, you see that it's back in the center. And when I change this to -200 and -100, it's being offset 200 pixels to the left and 100 pixels up. To drive the corner mask position property automatically, we can add an expression. Write thisProperty dot property group parentheses 1 dot size, and that gives us 400 by 200. But remember, we want -200 -100, so divide by -2, and that puts us squarely in the top left. I'll explain this property and property group because you may not have seen them before, and you'll never get these just from pick whipping. This property is like this comp or this layer. It's just shorthand referring to the property that it's on. Property group is more interesting. This is how we can traverse up between shape layer groups. The number inside the parentheses counts upwards, like a reverse index. Property group 1 is saying, go up 1 parent group. So this whole expression says, look at this property, then go up 1 property group, and look at that group. So we're going up 1 to corner mask. From corner mask, we're going to go back down to size. If we turn on the original rectangle, we have the full shape, and we have the corner mask, and then these two are intersecting, so we only see the top left quadrant. And now if we increase the corner roundness, because everything is positioned perfectly, we're masking off the top left quadrant and only rounding that top left corner. All of the properties are being driven by the box size, so we can safely control the box size, and everything will responsively update. All we have to do now is create the 3 other corners. Let's do some cleanup first. Rename this to Intersect, and I'll pop these strokes and fill out of the group. We can go ahead and duplicate corner 1, so now we have corner 2. Now we want corner 2 to go to the top right. I'll turn off corner 1 and open up the corner mask. If I turn off our position expression, we can move this to the correct point. The values that we want in this position property are +200 and -100, which means we want to divide the width property by 2, but we want to divide the height property by -2. So I'm going to get rid of this divide by -2. So we're just getting that size property. If you remember from the first lesson, size is an array, meaning it has 2 values. It has a width and it has a height. To access the width, we put in bracket 0. And at the front of this, I'll create a variable for x. For the second variable, we'll copy the first line and paste it here. To access the second value of the array, we put bracket 1. Then we need to rename the variable at the front to y. If we output x and y, we have 400, 200, because it's accessing the first value of the array for x, and then the second value of the array for y. Now we can do individual operations and say x divided by 2 and y divided by -2. This works great and it's perfectly functional. However, I'm going to make this shorter using something called destructuring. Get rid of the whole y variable and remove the bracket 0 at the end of size. Now x equals just the size property, and that size property contains 2 values. It contains the width and the height. We can access both of these from one line using array destructuring. So I'll replace x with bracket xy. And what this is saying is create 2 new variables. And the first value is called x, and the second value is called y. The first value from our array, which is 400, will be assigned to x. The second value of our array which is 200, will be assigned to y. So it's essentially the same as what we wrote before, just shorter. So I'll click out of the box and we get an expression error. If we add dot value to the end of size, that fixes the error. But let's explain this a little more. I'll get rid of everything in our expression except this property, dot property group 1, dot size, dot value. And it spits out 400, 200. Now if I get rid of dot value, that also works. After Effects is doing something in the background called pre-processing, where it says, hey, you want size? No, you actually want the value of size. Normally, you don't have to be hyper-specific and always write dot value. After Effects knows. However, if you're using array destructuring, After Effects isn't going to do that pre-processing for you. And you have to be specific in saying, hey, I don't just want the size property, but I want the value of the size property, which I can then destructure. To learn more about destructuring, check out the link in the description. Now we have both corners, corner 1 and corner 2. If we turn off corner 1, we can see corner 2 on the right. If we turn off corner 2, we can see corner 1 on the left. The only issue here is we have the stroke in the middle. Just pop the fill over the stroke so it's on top. And then the stroke will be appearing on the outside of the shape, and we can increase that outer radius of the stroke. When we change the full box size, everything is still reacting accordingly. So let's go ahead and create the other two corners. We can duplicate corner 2 for corner 3. And now where do we want its position? Let's turn off the position expression and move it around so we can see. It looks like we want it to be minus 200 to the left and then 100 down. That would be x divided by minus 2 and y divided by positive 2. For corner 4, we follow the same process and we say x divided by 2, y divided by 2. And that will give us all 4 corners, which creates the full shape. However, we still only have one roundness slider. I'm going to create 4 roundness sliders, roundness 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll set these to 25, 50, 75, 100 so we can see the difference. With our shape layer selected, search linear. And for each of the roundness properties with a linear expression on it, we need to change where these are pointing. So for corner 1, let's leave that pointing to roundness 1. For corner 2, point to roundness 2. For corner 3, point to roundness 3. And for corner 4, point to roundness 4. Now we can control the roundness of each corner individually, while the full size is all controlled by our one box size control. And there you go, that's how to create individually rounded corners on a single shape layer. In the next lesson, I'll show you how to rig this up to a text layer, so that the size is always driven by the text inside of it. See you later.